Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a celebrity mediumship psychic reading on Mac Miller. And he is the rapper, the singer, songwriter that a lot of people associate with Ariana Grande. They were dating, and he collaborated on one of her first singles out that made it, on mainstream. Um, it was very popular. So I'm going to be talking about what I see for him from his soul, from the soul level, and what led to his passing. Now, when I get into Mac's soul, what I feel coming through very strongly is that this man was a sweetheart. He was definitely someone that had a very big heart. He was very nice and he got along with a lot of people. I don't feel like he was, the type to hold beef or drama with anyone. He just looking in his eyes, you can tell he was like a big teddy bear, and he really just loved and genuinely cared for anyone and appreciated music to the fullest extent. Um, and I feel like he didn't verbalize a lot of what he was feeling to a lot of people. He has always struggled. I feel like there was maybe some bullying that he had gone through in his younger years, and it kind of, toughened him up a little bit. Now, as in the music world and in the music scene, but a lot of people had a lot of respect for him due to the fact that, he was very good at what he did. So what I get is that, he had dependencies, obviously. We all know that. And I feel like it wasn't something that just happened overnight. He struggled with the dependencies over us a long period of time. I want to say he started maybe in his teens. I don't know his full story, so I'm just giving what the soul is telling me and what I'm getting from spirit as well. So I feel like it was like when he was in his teens was his first time experimenting with drugs, and I feel like from there it just continuously became something that was more like predominant in his life, and he really just couldn't. Once you start, you can't stop. That's kind of like what I'm getting from his soul. And even though he tried to stop, and get better and get clean, get sober, I just feel like this was part of his lifestyle and what he was around. The people that he would have been around, they would have also adopted this kind of patterns. Sadly, though, I feel like over time, when he got with Ariana, there was a lot of love and a lot of respect for her, and I feel like in many ways she brought out a lot of the good energy in him and the good vibes, and took him out of this depressive state that he would have been in. But I don't feel like he was diagnosed with depression. I feel like he was just depressed, and people just maybe thought, oh well, it's like he's stoned, or he's drugged, and that's the reason that he's kind of mellowed out, or kind of he looks kind of sad. But I feel like what I'm getting is that he actually did suffer from depression. But this goes back to what I'm saying, is that he wouldn't have opened up to people and really expressed. People that go through depression, not everyone handles it the same. Not everyone is going to open up and let people know. They will pass it off as a smile, or they'll seem like or they cope, they go turn to drugs or substances to kind of cope with their feelings and their emotions, and what is going through, what they're going through. In his way, I feel like his outlet was music, and it was also drugs, and these were the two things that he found as a coping mechanism. But when Ariana came along and he was with her, he saw her, they were best friends, and I feel like in many ways he wanted more from her, but he struggled with communicating and verbalizing that. So there was a lot of playfulness, a lot of flirting. But I do get that, ultimately he had a lot of respect for her, and he didn't want to, compromise the friendship in taking it into a relationship. But he knew more or less that in the world that Ariana was in, and that the world that he's in, that at some point it wouldn't work out, even if they were to be, if he would have approached her to be like a boyfriend and girlfriend, which they were for a brief period of time, it wouldn't have worked out because of the fact that they come from two different worlds, and Ariana is constantly with a busy work schedule, and she would have been away from him. And also, I feel like she also had her own reservations about taking it to that next level. But then eventually, it feels like they did, get to that point. And when they did, it kind of lifted his spirits, and he got out of that depressive state a lot. But I feel like he had a lot of expectations of her being the one, like being the girl that he would end up marrying. And so when it didn't work out, I feel like what really didn't work out was their busy schedules, and also the fact that they didn't want to ruin the friendship. And I feel like Ariana also did tell him many times, you need to kind of clean up, you need to sober up. This is not healthy for you. And it's like Ariana almost knew that this was going to be the outcome sooner or later, because I feel like she was sitting there and she saw a lot of this and felt it. But she's not a judgmental person. I don't feel like she would have come across this to him as like being judgmental or judging him, but rather, coming from a place of love and respecting him and his choices. But ultimately, she didn't want to align herself with that, because it would have had an effect on her life and her career path. So I feel like she chose to just have a friendship with him still and be amicable. I don't feel like that when they broke up or whatever, they just, I feel like they just transitioned back to being friends, and that's how I feel the energy. But I feel like he was left heartbroken, and this is not anything. A lot of people are wanting to blame Ariana for this, and that's wrong, because we are in charge of our own actions and our own feelings, and we are responsible for our own selves. Ariana's not responsible for his passing or for his choices that he made. And I feel like that is a huge, thing for Mac, that his soul, he doesn't want her to be judged by people, by her, her fans, and by his fans, for her to be judged unjustly, because again, she wouldn't have been able to stop it. Even if they would have been together, there would have been some kind of trigger point at some point for him. We all have different exit points for our soul, and when we are going to choose to leave the physical world. And I just feel like this was one of his exit points at 26 years old, I believe is what his age was. But like I said, life is short. We never know when things are going to happen. So we need to fully love unconditionally, and love, and also express how you feel. You don't want to leave the physical world one day and not being able to really have told somebody how you felt about them. And young love is so complicated, and I feel like there was just so many facets to this. And he, like I said, he was soul crushed, and he had, when he saw that Ariana was now with her new fiance, and they are going to get married eventually, even though I don't see that working out, their relationship, like I said in the reading that I did for Ariana. But I just get that, Mac would have, this is constantly was replaying in his mind. And when you're on drugs and substances, they can really affect your mind as well, and really bring you to a negative place. And then you have to understand the world is vibrating at a very negative level, and it's shifting. And so there's so many energies that surround that are darker in nature. And when you are like somebody like Matt, when you're under the influence or you're doing substances and stuff like that, you're opening yourself. Essentially, we all have like an aura, we all have an energy around us, a force field. When we start doing drugs or substances, or we have dependencies, whatever it is, it creates like a tear in there, and that's what we call like an opening. And so when that tear happens in that aura, it's like an opening, a doorway, and you're very much prone to spirits, darker spirits or entities coming through and attaching themselves to you. Now, whether or not Mac had an entity attached to him, it's very possible, because of the fact that he was already under the, like I said, under the influence, and he was sort of depressed. And when you're depressed and you have dependencies, it's something, it creates like a formula where the perfect environment for lower level entities to kind of attach to you and play mind games and whisper in your ear. So it feels like, this is something that was very possible for him. I don't feel like if he would have been sober, he would have led to doing what he did. And I don't feel like this was a suicide either. Like, he would have intentionally overdosed. It was an accident. Uh, but like I said, when you're under that influence, you really don't keep track a lot about, what you're putting into your system and whatnot. And I feel like his heart was already having problems. So there was problems with his heart, and it just gave out. That's what I'm getting, what's coming through, and something with the respiratory. So there was definitely some respiratory issues as well. I don't know if he had asthma as a child or any kind of upper respiratory problems, but I feel like there was something in the pulmonary and something with the heart, definitely, that contributed to the passing with the substances. But I just feel he didn't have a good support system either. A lot of these young artists are not being supported. They're being used like a machine to really produce music and really, make money for these companies, but they don't have the right support system. If these people would, give them like a counselor or someone that is, like a life coach that they could align themselves with and kind of talk to them, even if it's a therapist. I think it would actually help them a lot, so they would have, that kind of level of maybe getting some the help that they need, or getting some kind of, stress relief. In many cases, I don't see that this is what's happening with a lot of these artists that are out there. They're not getting that stress relief, and they're not getting that relaxation that they're needing. They're just working, working, working. When you combine that with substances and depression, it's a toxic formula. It's like a whirlwind, a hurricane that is just waiting to happen. And so the end result is not going to be a good thing. But ultimately, if he would, I feel like there was many signs and many areas that this was leading up to. But people, like I said, people are so much caught up in their own world, and their schedules are so busy, and the executives for these music companies, they really don't pay attention to it. But if you would have been like an empath around him, many people would have already had picked up more or less that this was going to happen sooner or later, or this could possibly be an outcome, and it could have possibly been prevented. But like I said, his soul was prepared regardless of what would have been around him. I feel like this was his exit point, and he is in a good place. I don't feel like he stayed earthbound. His energy feels like it's okay, and it's on the other side. He loves his family and his friends, and he's very grateful to Ariana for her still holding a place of love in her heart for him. So I don't feel like he has any, animosity. He's adjusting well on the other side, and that's what I'm getting from his soul. But ultimately, he just wants people to really remember him for his funny nature, for who he, the pranks that he would do, because he was a very big prankster. I mean, I don't know him personally, but this is what I'm getting from his soul. He just played a lot of pranks. He was like a big goofball, a big teddy bear, and he would do anything to, make other people feel happy. And that's kind of sometimes like what people that are depressed do. They make other people happy and suppressing their own sadness, and not making them own selves happy. But if he would have had a lot of self-love and care, and the circumstances would have been different, perhaps it's a possibility that his soul would have chosen a different exit point in his life, like much later in, when he was older. But ultimately, he is okay, and that's the message that he wants to send out to the world, that he is fine. And something about a big like stuffed animal, like a teddy bear. I don't know if he gave Ariana like a teddy bear or stuffed animal, but I keep seeing like this carnival kind of setup where I don't know what you call it, that game where you have like a gun and you kind of like shoot balls towards something to kind of knock, and get that prize. But I feel like he did a lot of that. He was in that kind of, those are memories that are like coming through. So yeah, this is my reading for Mac Miller, and I wish all of his fans peace and healing, and most of all his family. I send them angel hugs and blessings and healing energy, and I hope that they are okay, and they really realize that Mac is okay, and that he is sorry, that people may not understand his actions and why this had to happen, but it was an accident. It was not intentional. So blessings and love and light. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any other celebrities you want me to do a reading on, please comment in the comment section below. And if you would like to set up a private reading with me, you can go to my website. That's www.raymondguzman.net/shop. Blessings and love and light. Have an amazing day.